Right, hello again. I'll keep going with this series. This should be the third in this series of videos about the Lumia 920 Windows Phone. Please see a look in my description here down below for the other three videos, or the ones prior and after this one. I don't know if I'll put them in a playlist. If I figure out, I might. But look for the links there. I've talked about other parts of the phone. In this particular video I'm going to try and address the operating system, Windows itself, and what I've liked and disliked about that, and I'll mention a few other phones in the process, and also some points about actual usage, because I do use this for fun and for business, and have some things to say about that. Right, where do I begin? I'll look at my notes. Multitasking. I'll just go through a few issues here. Multitasking, if you watch these kinds of videos or you read reviews, you will have come across multitasking in Windows and Windows Phone 8, as opposed to Android and iPhones and Windows mobile devices now, and Blackberries more recently. The way it is done in this, I'm happy with. I've got no problem with it. It's not the same as it's done in other phones. Now, if you used if you're old enough to have used Windows mobile phones, the original Pocket PC style phones, those had real multitasking. If you ran an app and you put it in the background, switch to something else, the app would still be running. Doesn't matter what it was still running. You could open 5 apps and they'd all be running. Now, everyone complained because that was such a silly idea, because of course they're not real computers, they're not meant to be desktop computers, they're not powerful enough, the batteries wear out so far too quickly when you do that, and the whole thing slows down and becomes unusable. And that's exactly what Windows Mobile was like. However, that same feature is now bandied about as a great advance with phones like the BlackBerry and Android, I think, does it to a degree as well. But the downside of that system was, yes, battery, memory, you were always, and sluggishness. The trouble with Windows Mobile and Android, I found, which I found it to be exactly the same as Windows Mobile, you spend half your time on the phone looking at your battery, looking at your connectivity, looking at what apps are open, looking at your memory even, and trying to reorganize it, because you're just trying to keep the device running and you want the battery to stay running. It just becomes this game where you're just trying to balance everything, which I think is just a nightmare. I mean, I gave up on Windows Mobile specifically to get away from that. Apple came along, locked the whole thing down, one app at a time, except for special things, music can play when other things are going, but one thing at a time, control what runs, be very controlled about it, and get excellent battery life. Take flash off the device so that doesn't run things down and slow things down. A lot of smart choices they made to give you a much better phone experience than you got with Windows Mobile. Now, Android is a bit in between. It has all the faults that Windows Mobile had, all of them. As soon as I got an Android device, I was blown away at how similar it was to Windows Mobile. It was basically Windows Mobile, but with better apps. Otherwise, it works the same. This whole idea of installing apps on your phone and then moving them to the other drive and all that rubbish, I think that's a joke. I think that's just a joke. That should have been gone with Windows Mobile, not reintroduced with Android. However, if you're going to have removable SD cards and low memory built into the device, you sort of have to do that. You got to do that sort of thing. So that's why these Windows phones, they don't do that. The memory's built in. That's it. Even when there is expandable memory, that's only for docs and music and stuff. It's not for programs, and it's not for the operating system. It doesn't become a locked-in part of the system. It's a separate thing, like a separate drive. So I think Windows, they've done the right thing here. I've got 32 gigs in this. That's plenty of space. And it's all one single space. You don't have to worry about where things are installed and all that. It's great. Back to multitasking, I think by the same token, the multitasking here, they've got this system of contracts where, and all this process management where applications can ask to run in the background, and you can also tell programs to run or not to run in the background, in particular regarding live tiles and updates. And it's all with a view to giving you the best battery life and keeping the phone snappy. And there's no denying Windows Phone is snappy. This phone never slows down. Doesn't matter what you do, it never slows down. So I'll just run through this. Bring up some stuff there. Open my photos. Okay. Open music. And open Office here. Open a spreadsheet. There we go. Open my OneNote. I'll open the notes for this review that I made. Actually, there they are. And let's keep going. Let's open my stocks. There they are. And what else can we open? Oh, let's open a game. Wordament. This has to connect. Okay, it's connecting. Okay. And let's open Internet Explorer, just for fun. Let's go to Google Maps, which Google was forced to enable. I'll switch to the mobile version of apps, just for fun. There we go. What I did there was just change IE from desktop to bring in to announce itself as a mobile browser, so that websites will then give it the mobile version. So that's maps.google.com on just the HTML5 version of Maps. Okay, now we've been opening stuff here. Oh, while we're at it, let's also launch, say, Nokia Maps, which is an app, which has now been rebranded here Maps. Okay, this is of course a nice mapping app. Let's go to satellite view. There we go. This is something or other. So I've been opening a whole lot of stuff. Nothing slows down. Let's multitask. So you do that by holding down on the back button, and then you can swipe back over to what you've opened. Now it's limited in how many things. It controls how many things are open at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things it's got open right there. I think it's 8 is the maximum. Something is closed. I had something open, I'm pretty sure. I'll just let's say open this Facebook, the hub, the social networking hub. Okay, there we go. And go back to the start screen, and now let's look, see what we've got open. No, it's dropped one off the end there, so that office screen is now gone. So all the things I've been using are, in the last hour or so would be open. And so you press there and you go back and you change to an app. Plonk, there's the app, and you can use it, right? Go to another app, the People Hub, and there it is, you can use that. Go to whatever you want. Go to OneNote, and there you can use that. So these are apps that support fast resume. So when you switch back to them, they resume instantly. That's the whole point. There are apps that don't do that. And particularly a lot of the older games don't. So if you play Plants vs. Zombies on this, if you switch away from the game, sometimes when you switch back pretty quickly, you're straight back in it, but usually it reloads part of the game, so it can be slow for doing that. That's a bit of a pain, but that's something that the apps have to do to catch up with what's now possible in Windows Phone since 7.5. They need to get that working. So that's your multitasking. Now, I don't actually use that all that often, surprisingly. You don't have to use this. method. Although if you want to keep everything open, yes, you do. But all this stuff, I seldom want to keep everything open. I like to have things, I just close everything. Because pressing the back button here in any app will just close it. It just closes the app. So if I press back button now on Excel, that will close. That application will simply close and be gone. I'll do that. It's gone. Switch back to the next application. Now if I look at the open apps, Excel is gone. So people are always saying we want to be able to close apps. I think that's an Android, Windows Phone Windows Mobile kind of attitude, because you're always trying to clear your memory and save battery and close things that might be running. You really do not have to do that in Windows Phone. You just forget about doing that. Don't even think about it. Just use this if you do need to multitask. If you want to close things, if you're really fussy about keeping things closed, and I'm not fussy about it, but I tend to use this. I come in, I look at what I'm doing, what I need to do. If I want to do something else, I go to the start screen and do it. If I desperately have to go back to that one thing, I might do that. But more typically, I might go to the screen, look at a message or look at an email, and then I back my way like that, back to the previous app. And by doing so, I've closed where I was. So I'll go again, start screen. I might look at my calendar. Launch my calendar, see what's going on, look at a meeting, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll just back my way back to that app, you see. And I've closed everything that I had open. So rather than multitasking, I tend to get this kind of linear workflow where I sort of go into things and then come out of them without even really thinking about it. So right now I'll just back out of all those open apps just by repeatedly pressing on the back button. See, everything's gone now. Everything's closed. It's really quick and easy. That's as easy to do as on any operating system. You can just close stuff like that. The only application which does not behave like that is Internet Explorer. Now this program is one of the few, very, very few I think, if any, that uses the back button as the back button in the browser. And so if you browse through multiple pages in IE, so we'll go there and then we'll go to Places. Oh God, go to Classic. Go to News and do whatever. Okay, there's News. If I want to back out of it, if I want to close this app, or if this was in my list of open applications and I started using the back button to back out of this and close it, as soon as I hit Internet Explorer, it would start to back through each of those pages I've just opened, one after the other, through the history. And that can be a bit of a pain, because if you're just trying to go click, click, click to get rid of everything, which you don't have to do, but if you do that, you get stuck on the browser. And so what I've done, because I'm still in that habit, is I've replaced the refresh button, the stop refresh button down here, with the tabs button. You can do that in the settings. It's just one of the options there, tabs. You can change that button for several different things, your favorites. If you change it to tabs, then instead of, if you really want to close out of IE for some reason, you just want to get rid of it without just letting it run, you go there and you close the tab, and then you're back, and it's gone. So now it's gone altogether, so you're not there. That's a quick way without having to step through a whole bunch of pages. But I must stress again, there's absolutely no need to do that. If you stop using it and you don't use it all day, it'll just go down the list of open apps and disappear. It's not using any battery or whatever while it's doing that. So that's multitasking. As you see, there's a couple of ways to operate the phone. You just use whatever's comfortable to you. Regarding the tiles, this whole system of tiles, I love the whole Windows Phone UI. It makes a lot of sense to me. As soon as I saw it come out, I looked at it and I thought, oh yes, I totally understand that. I love the way they're getting rid of the skeuomorphic sort of elements, the fake leather and the stitching and the note paper look. which I think is pretty ridiculous. It served its purpose. It was fine for a time, but it's great to see people moving on from that as designers. And so it's neat to see this back. And so Metro, the obvious what they're trying to do here is return icons back to what they were originally meant to be, little signs that just give you a little pictogram of what the thing is, what it represents, what's it for. And so a phone, a pictogram of a phone is a phone. You could say that's a skeuomorph because it's a phone, but at least it's not leather. So that's message, that's email, a little envelope. Again, you could say it's a skeuomorph because it's an envelope, but it's not really trying to look like a real physical envelope. But it's just an icon. This is what icons are supposed to be. These things. Now, where it gets a little bit funny is where when an icon. So I guess compared with the way icons have been developing in the last 20 years, I mean, I'll point at iOS, but iOS is only just like Mac OS and just like Windows has been for 20 years. As soon as icons became a thing to have on the desktop, that was color and 16-bit color and so on. All of a sudden, icons turned away from being these kind of pictograms and became little things. Little three-dimensional pictures of a rubbish bin, little pictures of a hard drive and a magnifying glass and things like that, all as little photographic things or little drawing, I don't know, all kinds of things. And so desktops are full of all these weird pictures. And then it sort of developed even further, Apple got into all their glossy look, that sort of thing. So not only were the icons themselves things, but the button that the icon was on also became a thing, became a glossy, pushable, shadowed, three-dimensional thing as well. So all of a sudden you got all these candy-style icons. And so I look at an iPhone screen these days and I just think, oh my God, it's a little circus. It's a little icon circus. It's a crazy house of icon design. As a purist in terms of engineering and design, I think this is fantastic. This is it's like road signs. Metro, it's from signposts in the subway and on streets and so on. This is what signs are all about. So very simple, very graphical, two-dimensional. Love it. I think that's neat. But you're not restricted to it, you see. You can have whatever you want. People have their logo there, their Facebook flag, whatever. You can put whatever you want on an icon, have a whole little picture there. But the core Windows things, and a lot of the developers follow this idea, are simple icons, and I really like that. The whole flat, squared off look, yeah, I like it. It's fashionable now. No doubt in 5 years it's going to look terrible, but for now it looks really stylish, and it's snappy and bright and colorful, and obviously it makes things run very nicely as well. This whole idea of resizing, that's new in Windows Phone 8. Yes, great. The one downside, I mean, I do think this is messier than Windows Phone 7.5 was, with its 2 columns of single-sized tiles. It was very clean and tidy and sort of functional. This, you can mess it up. You can do whatever you want, make it a complete mess, like I have. My screen is not very tidy. But that appeals to, people insisting on having customization, so there we go. It is very customizable. You can make your screen, set it up with what you want on it, where you want it. My advice, put things you want to use with your thumb here on the right side. So my phone, things I use most, Metal, phone, messages and email right there, easy to get at with my thumb. Whereas the default phone, I think, is up in the corner, which is sort of hard to get at. And so you set it up so that a lot of these things you use a lot are right here down the right-hand column, if you're right-handed. And I have bigger tiles on the left because it's harder to reach. I don't have a big thumb. It's harder to get over there. So that's how I have mine set up. It's okay. And most things I use all the time are here up front, and then it's sort of lesser and less down the page. It's a bit of a mess. I haven't really spent a lot of time on it because I don't want to. That's the point. The disappointing thing about live tiles is they're not even live enough. I want to see more stuff. I want to see even more stuff on the tiles. That's what I want to see. My calendar tile is blank. I don't know why it's blank. I've got things going on. Look, there they are. It may not be today, but Thursday. You know, it could say Thursday, blah, blah, blah. So where is it? I'll go to the large size. Nothing. It's just not there. So there's not even enough information. It will show you what's there. Eventually, you'll get your today's thing on there. But there needs to be even more. I don't see why a lot of these tales can't be showing a whole lot. Some of these news ones are neat, how they show pictures and they show bits of news stories. That's great. I want to see a lot more of that everywhere. You know, my email tile. Okay, there's a spam. But look at this great big tile. So it's great there's a bit of a message, right? But look how big this tile is, right? And it's just showing me half of it as a message. There's a lot of room left where it could be giving me more of the message. Why not give me more of the message? So I don't understand that. It needs to give me more stuff, more information. If I go to half size, all of a sudden it just steps down to the number. Well, it could have put the message on there. You know, it works for the news app. Give me the message. Don't give me the number. Give me the number when it's when it's the really small size. So I'm not happy with that. It needs to show more. I think it needs to show more. They're not even live enough. They could show so much more information here. I like the pictures and things scrolling by. That's fun. And when you pin other people to your screen, it's if you have them big enough, it's nice that those flip over and tell you their you know, latest Facebook posts and all that sort of thing. That's really nice. But again, could have even more information. And certainly a lot of the tiles don't even have much at all. I mean, some things like Nokia Drive, they just show you nothing at all, just the icon. And the other big downside with that, the reason too, is battery life. Because as you start getting more and more live tiles, at a certain point it stops letting you have new live tiles, and you have to disable a live tile. And that's all done here in the settings, these background tasks. This is what's allowed to run. And then down here is stuff that's wanted to run or wants to run but isn't allowed to run. So you can say what you want to run or what you don't want to run. But man, you know, I want it all to run. I want live tiles all the way up and down the screen, not just for, you know, 10 or a dozen items. I want 30 items live, everything. So that's a bit disappointing. Obviously it'll probably start coming along in the future as batteries improve and so on. They'll let us have more live tiles maybe. Okay. Notifications. I have to address this because, again, people who come from other devices, other operating systems, often complain about not having a notification center. I tend to I'd see it from two angles. There's the one angle that Microsoft has to make this appeal to potential customers, and in particular to tech blog authors. And so they often come up, I think, with features that are sort of designed for them, just to make the product look a bit better, even though it sort of goes against the actual design philosophy. The notification center is not in here because it doesn't need one. It is a notification center. The whole phone is a notification center. It just doesn't fit with this UI. They will probably add something in an update in future simply because it will make a lot of tech blog authors happy. That's fine if they do. Hopefully they do it nicely. Why doesn't it need a notification center? Because, as I was saying, the whole phone is a notification center. So on BlackBerry you've got an LED light that lights up when your notification comes in, and then you turn it on and you rub the phone sideways and you can see a list of all your inboxes, including all your Facebook and all your tweets and all the stuff that you desperately do not want to have mixed in with your business email is sitting there. All your inboxes are sitting there in this hub, which is sort of interesting, but I've looked at it closely and I've decided that this is the better way to do it, because I want my email to have my email, And I can break that up into multiple tiles, multiple accounts. That's about 6 or 7 accounts in the one inbox there, but I could break it into multiple inboxes if I wanted and have them separate. Have some big, some small, whatever. But I couldn't imagine anything worse than having all my social updates in there as well. What a nightmare. But when you swipe up that BlackBerry Hub, that's what you see. Everything in there. I'm sure there's some customization to remove things out of it, but then it's gone. Where is it then? You see, you want a social hub. So this idea of having all of the social networking, all the friends stuff here, all the tweets, all the LinkedIn, all the Facebook junk, that's great. I can flip through it. And a great improvement on the BlackBerry Hub, and of course on the other phones anyway, is that on this phone you get the actual message. See? You get the whole message. You don't just get the fact that there is an update and maybe who it's from, and if you're lucky, a little bit of a subject line. You actually get the whole message. Because, I mean, Facebook posts don't have subject lines. So here they are. You get the whole message, and that's great. Not to mention, you get the pictures. You see, the pictures are in there as well. And you can reply from here. There's no mucking around. You just do it right from there. So that's great. If you want to see ones just for you, you come in here into notifications and it all comes up. Your history, whatever. That works really well. And I like that it is separate. Not all jumbled together. I like that it is separate from the phone, the messaging, which is instant messaging, and from email. Now the one thing that Microsoft have not fit in yet is Skype. I've got it there on a tile. That is meant to be fully integrated, but we're going to have to see how they do that, because the instant messaging part needs to be in there, whereas the phone part needs to be in there. And that's what they really have to do. They need to break it up across those two different tiles or locations. They did have it integrated briefly into the People Hub, but it's taken out again for some reason. But I'm sure they'll sort that out eventually. Works really well otherwise, the Skype thing. What else? Notifications. Now the other reason I don't think this needs a notification hub. If you look at your phone, you turn it, if your phone beeps, it'll vibrate if you get something, it'll beep at you, it will, if you've got that enabled, it will, if you look at your phone, it will put up a toast, what's called a toast, which means that at the top of the screen here, it'll put up a little notification bar. Or if it's this way, it'll put it up there. And it'll put that up no matter what you're doing. If you're playing a game, playing Plants and Zombies, it'll put up the notification. So if you get a text or something. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is the notification, the instant notification. That's the equivalent of the LED on the BlackBerry. And the benefit is that without having to touch anything, you can see not just that you have received a notification, but normally you can actually see what it is. You can see the message. And so if you're playing a game, you get the toast, or anything else, like there's a Wi-Fi in the area, do you want to connect to that? All kinds of things come up here. So you get the toast, and you make a decision. You either just ignore it, you look at it, you ignore it, you do nothing, it goes away. If it's in your way and you want it to go instantly, you just swipe it sideways. You just go flick, and it's gone. If you want to act upon it, you tap it. That's all you do. You tap it, and it will take you into the phone, into whatever the app is where that message is, and you can deal with it there. From what I've seen about the new BlackBerry Hub, you get your LED. Now on my phone, if I received an LED notification every time I received a notification, the LED would never be off. It would just be on all day. So I don't know the value in that. I don't really know the value in the LED. And it doesn't tell you anything other than that there's a notification. So, big deal. I'm used to looking at my phone. I'll go, if I don't hear it buzzing or something, I just now and then look at it. And of course on Windows Phone, as well as the toasts, you get all these things down the bottom here. So there's an email for me. You can control what apps show notifications down here. This is just messages that haven't been viewed. That's what that is. It's not an actual piece of the message. And so if there's an email, I can come in here and go, yep, there's an email. If I want to see what it is, I tap it and see what it is. People complain that when they do that, that that then clears the read emails, and so when they go back, it's gone, because they're confusing a notification of unread messages, or new emails, new messages and new emails since you last looked. That's what those numbers are. Anything new since you last looked in there. They're confusing that with what is already built into each app, which is the unread. If you want to see stuff you haven't read yet, well, that's in the apps. You can go into Skype, and there we go. It will tell me, see, 4 unread. And they're orange. Things that I haven't looked at yet, but I've cleared them off the tile. They're still unread in the app, so there's still that facility to find things you haven't actually read. So that's, again, I don't think it needs a notification center for that particular feature. It's already in there. All the apps do it. The messaging, if you haven't read it, it's in your highlight color. See there? If you have read it, it's grayed out. See, it's all done for you. That's just how it works. The last part of the notification, so there's the there's the lock screen notifications, there are the toasts that take you on through to the actual message, and then there are the live tiles which you can configure as you see fit. And then within each app are facilities to view things that review things that you haven't actually read as well. So that I think deals with the whole thing for me. I never find myself trying to find something. It's been pretty good like that. The only time haven't liked notifications is, for example, certain games like Alpha Jacks here, where you can't turn off notifications. I wasn't really playing it, and it kept popping them up. It's stopped now for some reason, but it kept popping up notifications, which I didn't really want. But of course, if you're playing it, you want that. So, I don't know. Okay, that's the notifications. Tiles, notifications, multitasking. A bit of a chat about the UI in general. In terms of the size and the UI, people talk about the iPhones and so on, and the BlackBerry too, about the size. That they say that the phone is the size it is because you need to be able to operate it with your thumb. Well, I have noticed since first getting Windows Phone 7.5 that you typically, the way they've designed this is that whilst on an iPhone or some other phone, you're always having to push things. On my Android phone too, and on my old Windows Mobile phone, I was constantly going from one corner to the next corner to the next corner to the next. And I don't have big hands, so it's quite a stretch for me to get up there. I often have to use my other finger or risk dropping the phone trying to stretch up there. Or the worst thing, I'm constantly pressing the search button with my palm to get up there. I don't do that on this phone because almost nothing is up there. If you notice that the apps here, see, the design of Metro UI is always like this. There's the title thing at the top. There's the subtitle, favorites, apps, what's new, and so on. Under there, you don't have to touch that thing at the top. You don't have to go there. You can swipe left and right here. You don't have to operate anything up top. And the information is all down here. And it may seem like a bit of a waste of space, like why doesn't this go all the way to the top? But it works. Look, you scroll up and down, there's heaps of information, and what else do you need? I think that works really well. So I think the UI has actually been designed so that you don't actually have to operate it at the top. The same goes for most things in the phone. Again, you swipe left and right, so there's information at the top, right? But I can swipe through these different panels anywhere on the screen. I don't have to go up there to do it. And then the actual information is down here, up and down, and I can operate everything from this corner with my thumb. No having to go up there all the time. I always cringe when I see an iPhone reviewer tapping things up in that corner and that corner. Makes me grin. So that, I believe, is also part of the design of the UI. It's this single-handed use, everything down here. At worst, if you've put a tile in that top left corner, you've given yourself something to touch up there. That's the only time it really happens. And so I take the phone, say, always put your most commonly used things over here where you can get at them, and put stuff at the top that you're not really tapping much, or just a big tile That's why those two big tiles are up there, because they're easy to hit. There are some apps that don't follow this. Not all apps follow this rule, because I guess most developers haven't actually figured out that that's what's going on. But one of Microsoft's own apps doesn't follow that guideline. So it's a bit weird. The Bing app, the search button. This is the one that breaks that. It puts the search box at the top, and more recently in Windows Phone 8 they moved the voice search thing up into the box as well. I don't know if they've done that because that's where it is, like on Android. You know, Android has that Google widget always on the home screen with that thing next to it. But it used to be down here. And I think the search box should be down here too, so you can operate it. So this screen is the only one that's irritating, is having to go up there and get in there and then start typing. It should be down the bottom. Exactly like this. That's why in IE, this is down the bottom. You know, you operate it all down the bottom here. That's why it's there, not at the top. So there's a lot of sense in that when you sort of realize what they're getting at. What else about the operating system? I've got so much to talk about. I might stop this video here because I'm at 36 minutes, unless I can see something short to look at. Should I quickly go over voice commands? Fast connect. I'll just talk about speed. Everything is fast. Dual core, 1.5 gigahertz CPU, gigabyte, what is it? 512 megabyte of RAM, 512 megabytes, a gigabyte of RAM. Sorry, what am I talking about? Gigabyte of RAM. The UI, the Windows Phone UI, everyone who's reviewed this knows it works flawlessly. It doesn't require powerful CPUs, doesn't require a lot of RAM. The apps don't require a lot of RAM to work. The only time you need a lot of RAM is that certain apps don't work on the 256 megabyte phones, the very lowest of the Model 610 and the 510, I think. There are a couple of apps that don't work on that, but apart from that, every app works on every Windows mobile phone, and they pretty much all work the same. It really is hardly any difference. This phone is definitely quicker than the Lumia 800, and the point at which it's quicker is in loading things and connecting. In particular, like if I go into Zeit, which is a newsreader, which always loads everything from scratch when you first go in there. So it was that quick to load all the stories. Now that's a lot quicker than it was on my previous phone. It's quite a bit quicker. So it takes a couple of seconds. Maybe previously it took 5 or 6 seconds. It was always just a little bit too long, a bit too painful to sit through. But that's quicker. Loading web pages is quicker. Loading most applications and going through that initial load of data, that most of the apps will refresh themselves when you first launch them, and that is quicker. That's definitely quicker than it was. I'm not sure why, if it's the CPU or if it's the connectivity. The connectivity is quick. Hooking up to Wi-Fi is very quick. So when you come home inside or go to work, it hooks up to the Wi-Fi very, very quickly, which is nice. This idea of removing all those notifications up there, I think that's good. I don't want to see all those things. I'm over that. Again, I got rid of that with my Android phone. I don't need to follow my battery all the time. If it goes down to a certain level, it will come down and tell me. It'll say that it's low, and there's a battery saver mode that it flips into. But until then, it's not there, and that's fine. If I need to see it, I pop it down. And every time you turn it on, it's there. So you can glance at it anyhow. You see, it's there, and it goes away. So I tend to see these things a lot during the day without having to try to. And so I think it's fine that they vanish. I quite like that, and it keeps the UI quite nice and clean. I like it to be clean. Slightly not so great is that the clock vanishes with a lot of apps. I do often want to see the clock. And so sometimes when I'm in certain applications, the only way to get back to the clock is to either flip back to the home page and see it, and then back to what I was doing, so it's 2 taps, or of course turn it off and on and I see the clock, so that's not so great. developers can decide whether or not they're going to show the clock and those other things, and I think most of them should make room for the clock, but quite a few of them don't. So that's probably a minor irritation there. I want to see the clock more often. What else about the speeds? Connectivity is very quick. The settings, you can do a lot of things. I will talk quickly about the customization for a couple of minutes. One thing, again, people go on about Android as having this grand customization, but I've had an Android phone, and I've had a Windows phone, Windows Mobile phone before it, and again, Android is exactly like Windows Mobile. You can reskin it, you can load new ROMs, you can do all of that stuff. I've been there, I've done that. I have an HTC HD2 that took every ROM in existence. I did all that, hated it. I spend all my time on my Android and on my Windows phone. I would spend all my time trying to get a usable UI going. Now, that was fun whilst I was still into having phones, but eventually, after many years of just being into playing with the phone as a toy, I'm sort of over that, and now I want to use the phone and I want to use the apps. I don't want to spend all my time trying to make the phone work. And so I like that there isn't that customization on this. This may be effective for many people. I'm not playing with the phone, I'm sort of using the phone. Okay, and so I don't want to do any customization, no ROMs, nothing, no skinning. I don't want to do any of that. But they do provide a certain amount of customization here, and it's plenty because it's quick and easy, and the results tend to look fine. And another point is that it's throughout the system. So this theme, of course, where on Android they skin things, and you can skin it to look like this even, but it's only on the surface, it's only on the skin, it's just on the surface. As soon as you tap into something, it's all gone, and you're looking at stock Android or stock Windows Mobile on the old phones. You're always straight back into the operating system behind. So the skins are only on the surface. With this theme, I like to be able to pick a theme. So say I feel particularly dandy today, I'll go out like that. And there, I've got a completely different look on the phone. And, maybe your daughter might like that look. It's not really for me. But it's very quick. And let me go. Oh, and the thing is, when you do that, it's throughout the device. So if I go into my phone, there's all that, and in particular the unanswered things, this highlight color is used throughout, so the unanswered messages get the highlight color. See, it works all the way through the system. All the unread messages get that, or if you go into your settings, here, go into say Wi-Fi, see the buttons and so on, they take on the highlight color and so on. So once you start doing changing the theme, it's a theme that carries on throughout throughout the phone, not just on the home screen. So that's nice. Let me change that to the gray one, and then go to dark. See how that looks. And you change it in 2 seconds to suit your mood, and it's quite fun. It actually works. It's nice. It's a bit like the Bing image of the day. See, just the fact that they change this image on a daily basis, and it's always a nice image if you like landscapes and things, which I do. The fact that they do that keeps that app interesting. It actually works. It makes it look good. I mean, if I come to the Google search screen, it's like, bleh, a white screen. It's just ugly. But this actually looks good. I'm not saying anything great about Bing itself, but it looks good. And so that's nice. That can be used on the lock screen of your phone as well. So it just changes the image of the lock screen every day. But I like doing this because you can very quickly change the feel, sort of the look of the phone, which gives it a different feel. That's that gray. There's also one very interesting theme. Let's go down to accessibility. One silly thing about this UI is there's no apparent order to this system settings. It's handy that Wi-Fi is up there, but the rest of the time, I'd like brightness to be way up here as well. the things that should be up here, or it should be alphabetic or something, but this list is just stupid. Okay, let's go down to somewhere down here, ease of access. So you go in here, use the high contrast mode, okay, back out. Now the high contrast mode looks like this. That's for people who don't see very well. It just should help people see things a little bit better, maybe if they squint and so on, look at the phone, who knows. So that's quite interesting. Works like that. It means there's no highlight color, so you don't get a highlight color on all these things. Instead, it underlines the things you haven't read, so it's visual, it's not color. So that's it's quite useful. Other phones have these sorts of things. But what's fun is if you then change to the... See how all these squares have got white lines around them? So the trick there is to then go to your settings. Oops. Go to your settings. Go to the theme and change it to a light background. And then it looks like that. So you get black tiles. Just very graphic black tiles. Now I've got too many colorful tiles here, but if you removed those and did a bit of mucking around, you could come up with quite an interesting interface for that. So that's how that works, which is interesting as well. There's plenty you can do, plus all the customization of the actual size and location of all the tiles. You can do all that. And it changes the appearance of that screen as well. So there's plenty to play with in that regard. I'll just change that, turn that back off, go to ease of access, turn off that mode, back out, let's have a look. So now it's grey again on white. Let's have a look again. And let's say, for example, that I'm going to have teal, which looks like that, but I quite like the teal on the dark background, so I'm going to have it like that now. There we go, that's my new phone for the day. I enjoy that. I think it's enough. It's consistent throughout. It's always tidy. And you can, there's plenty of customization in there as far as I'm concerned. So I'm quite happy with that. It's definitely not a downside to the thing. Relating to that, people complain about folders. They want folders. I think this is again a UI decision by Microsoft, which I agree with again. On my Android, I was forever looking for where I put things. I could never find my camera app. I could never find my whatever I was looking for. It was always somewhere. Which of the multiple screens did I put it on? Did it go in a folder? Is it still on the app tray? I mean, where the hell is it? That's what I was always doing. And people think that, it provides some kind of organization ability by having all the folders and the different screens and so on. It's actually just a mess. It's providing too much customization, too much organization options that everything just becomes a mess. I like what they've done here. There's a lot of logic to this. When you go to your app tray, your app drawer here, everything is alphabetic. So, alphabetic. And one could argue that these are the equivalent of folders. They're alphabetic folders. There's the M folder. There's the S folder. So with one touch, you have folders, because this is organizing all of the applications into this many folders and doing it alphabetically. So you then look inside that folder. So I'm now seeing the S's. And the way this works, and the reason it works, is twofold. You can't change the name of the apps. It always stays the same. So whatever it was when you installed it is what it will always be. And on any phone, anyone who has this phone will always know that Wiki Walking Tours is called Wiki Walking Tours, and it is in the W drawer, folder. It's under W. That's where it is. That's really consistent. If you're forced to just use the names that they are, you're basically never going to forget them. And you will always know where they are. And there's one extra feature here. There's this fantastic logic by putting the icons here on the left and leaving the rest of the space for the text, rather than putting them in a grid. Because again, I always cringe when I see a typical phone that has a grid of icons. Doesn't matter what phone this is, from old Windows Mobile through to the latest BlackBerry. They have all these icons, and then they put the name truncated, just a few characters of the name underneath the icon, because of course it doesn't fit. These names, a lot of the names don't fit under the icon, so they just cut them off, which is like, well, that's terrible design. Whereas this, having the full name visible like that, is perfect. There's the icon if you need it visually. There's the name. Again, if you need the name, you've got the whole thing there. So I think there's some good logic in that. By taking away the flexibility of customization, they've actually provided a lot of inbuilt natural organization. And so I seldom can't find an app. The only time I can't find an app is if I installed it and then didn't look at it until the next day or sometime later, and then I come in here and I go, oh, what was that app called? Especially if it has some funny name. Some developers are not very smart. But if you call it something, if it's a photo app and you put it under photos, it's there. Nokia stuff always starts with Nokia. It's always under Nokia. But some things you're not going to guess what they are. Like Rowie Lite, you have to know it's Rowie. But if you're just looking for it as a Twitter app, it should be under T for Twitter. Don't know. But, if you downloaded Rowie, you know it's Rowie. You know it's in R. It's in the R folder. That's where it is. Bang. And of course, everyone knows this. With Windows Phone, you just pin things to the start screen. That's a very important part of using Windows Phone that one can't emphasize enough, is the ability to pin stuff to the start screen. I'm going to stop this video now, and I'll go into that aspect in one of the next videos, because this is 50 minutes, and I'm going on and on and on. Okay, thanks for watching. Tell me if you like the video. Little thing down there to push. There, I'll use my thumb when I do that, because then it's like looks a bit more normal with my crazy looking thumb. Give me a like, subscribe if you want to see the other videos or more videos like this, and thanks for watching. There will be another video following shortly. Bye bye.